Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the public meeting of the Halton District School Board for February 16th, 2022. As per public health recommendations, we are meeting remotely again this evening. As we continue to meet virtually, we will continue to use a combination of Google Forms as well as the functions in Google Meets. With the hand up function, you are able to see the speakers to the side of your screen, and I will try to give an account of the order that trustee or that may be building so you're able to prepare your questions in advance. Trustees will be directing all questions through the chair, remembering our meeting rules of the road, as well as recent training to guide us through our meetings effectively and efficiently to deal with the business of the board. Okay, so tonight I'm going to take roll call in reverse alphabetical order by first name. So Trustee Vigilankara.
First for once. Hi, everyone.
I have to get you first. Vice Chair Harrison.
Hello, I'm here.
Great. Trustee Rocha.
Hello from Oakville.
Trustee Reynolds.
Good evening, everyone.
Trustee Amos.
Good evening, everyone.
Trustee Bao.
Good evening, everyone.
Trustee Oliver.
Good evening.
Trustee Gray.
Happy hello from the hills.
Trustee Garrett.
Good evening, everybody.
Trustee Daniele.
Thank you. I'm here.
Trustee Grabantz.
Hi, everyone.
And Trustee Collard.
Good evening, everyone. Sorry, I had the video on and the voice off.
Okay, A and coming at the end might be different. Your C is also alphabetical first. So thank you. Director Ennis, could you please let us know the staff that are in attendance this evening?
Thank you, Chair Shuttleworth, and good evening, everyone. We have a full complement of staff here to support the board meeting this evening. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. All right, so today, Trustee Bao will be honoring the land.
Halton, as we know it today, is rich in history and modern traditions of many First Nations and the Métis. From the Anishinaabe to the Attawandaron, the Haudenosaunee, and the Métis, these lands surrounding the Great Lakes are steeped in Indigenous history. As we gather today on these treaty lands, we have the responsibility to honor and respect the four directions: land, waters, plants, animals, ancestors that walked before us, and all the wonderful elements of creation that exist. We would like to acknowledge and thank the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nations for sharing their traditional territories with us.
Great, thank you so much, Trustee Bao. All right, are there any declarations of possible conflict of interest this evening? All right, with my scan, seeing none. Next, we're up to the agenda. So there has been a suggestion for an amendment to tonight's agenda. Vice Chair Harrison, could you please provide us with some details?
Yes, sure. Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. The suggestion is to move the item, which is currently 6.2.3, Reimagine Forward, up to an action item for this evening. So it would become 5.2.3. The item itself does not meet our criteria for returning to the board twice. So I believe that it is better placed under the action items for this evening. Thank you.
Great. Trustee Grabantz.
Thank you very much. The item that is 6.2.2 also could be moved to this evening because it is asking for a legal opinion, not anything that the greater public would have a say on. This, once it goes to a legal review, it would come back to the board for 2 times so that we could get public input if they have any.
Okay, so would you like that moved to under 5
yeah, 5.2. I guess it would be 4 then.
Probably.
Okay.
Okay, great. So are there any questions regarding those 2 amendments? Trustee Garrett.
Yes, thank you. Can you remind me again why we would need to move the first one up? I'm not sure that I'm actually prepared to vote on that tonight. So, but tell me why we should move it up.
Vice Chair Harrison?
Sure. Just to clarify, you're talking about the Reimagine Forward one?
Yes, I
So-
am.
Okay. We have a list of topics published on our website that we actually have a grid published there that shows the topics that would return to the board twice, including policy matters, for example, including the budget, a multi-year plan. Other items are eligible to be voted on the night that they're presented. So it's my understanding that this one just got kind of misfiled under the 2-time one. If other trustees feel similarly, of course, we could always, if we do move it up, we could defer it if people are generally uncomfortable or need some more time to consider it. The contents of the report, I believe, anticipated that it was coming forward tonight. And hopefully we'd be able to answer any questions and concerns that trustees may have on the subject matter.
Okay, Trustee Grabant, or Trustee Garrett, sorry. Are you okay with moving it forward, or shall we? You're muted, sorry, Trustee Garrett, I can't hear you.
We could move it forward, but I still may ask for it to be deferred.
Okay, perfect. All right, any other, Trustee Daniele?
Thank you very much, and thank you for that clarification, because originally I had only heard the school renaming forward until someone commented that it was the 2. And thank you for the clarification, Trustee Garrett. I would actually be voting against an amended agenda that moves this forward because I don't want to be in the position of deferring it. I did not realize this was going to be decided tonight, and there's a mountain of information from Bang the Table that I haven't had the chance to go through as thoroughly as I would do in making a financial decision. So I would be voting against the amendment and encouraging us to please go forward with the original March 2nd date to make the decision.
Trustee Collard.
I believe that if it had been put on the agenda as for action tonight, trustees would have done more of their homework in a more timely fashion, and that it might be best, in order to make the best decision, in order for that particular item to remain for the next meeting, so that trustees can do that homework, because there is quite a bit of information to read. And I think it would be prudent to hold for another meeting.
Thank you, Director Ennis.
Sorry, Chair Shuttleworth, not on this item, but on something else when you're finished.
Okay, all right, I'll come back to you. So, so we have 2 amendments on the table right now. So Trustee Grabant is asking to move the school naming forward because of it just being a legal opinion. And Vice Chair Harrison, are you happy to keep it as where it is, or would you still like to do what you're doing?
There are programmatic implications to moving it if it was going to move ahead, but no problem. I mean, the best thing is for the group to make a well-informed decision.
Okay, Trustee Daniele, and then Manager Gortmaker, I don't know if you have something that is important to hear.
If I may, Madam Chair, may I suggest procedurally that you divide the proposed amendments into 2 and vote on each?
Yeah. Trustee Daniele?
Thank you. And that was going to be my point. I misspoke. I will support the first one, the school renaming. being moved forward on the agenda. And I guess my discomfort simply comes from that I found out today that it was going to be moved for decision tonight, which did not give me the time that I feel that I need to be able to do my background information, to be able to vote adequately on this. And unfortunately, given that, I would probably end up voting no, because I just don't have the information that I need. I've gone through some of it, but in preparation for tonight's meeting. But, you know, if we were going to be moving it, I would have liked more than 5 or 6 hours notice. And that's my discomfort. But I would support the school renaming being moved up, and I would strongly prefer that the Reimagine Forward remain where it is.
Okay, Trustee Amos.
Based on the nature of the type of motions that they both are, they should both be up for action tonight. I am just wondering if procedurally we should actually have them where they're supposed to be and defer the one, because I understand trustees' discomfort about not having done all the research, but to be correct on how where these should be placed is where the one should be for action tonight. So I feel they should be amended to move, and then we defer the one till next week because of the type of motion. We have to be consistent in the type of motions that we're dealing with. We can't start saying, okay, well, this was a mistake, but it's gonna because we left it there. I actually believe procedurally we need to defer it to next week.
Okay. Director Ennis, is what you want to say about this conversation? No. Okay. So we'll split the amendments into two, and we'll start with Vice Chair Harrison's amendment, which is to move item 6.2.3 up to item 5.2.3. Director Ennis, is that just to wave and say hello?
Sorry, I am procedurally, I because I would also like something to be moved. So I was wondering if that might be considered, because the capital priorities, we often get months to prepare for the capital priorities. The ministry gave us weeks, and we will not be able to bring this back another time by March 2nd. It's due to the ministry this month. And so the good news is we get an opportunity to present them with some capital priorities. The bad news is they give us a very short timeline to do so. So I'd like that to also be considered for tonight.
Okay, so we then have 3 different amendments that we'll deal with each separately. Again, so we've got, looking at the item, I'll just list them. Oh, geez. Item 6.2.2, which is school naming and renaming. 6.2.3, which is Reimagine Forward, and 6.2.4, which is capital priorities. So we'll do them in the order that they're there. So we'll start with Trustee Grebence's amendment is, are we in favor of moving the school naming and renaming policy from 6.2.1 up to 5.2.3? Now, I'm sorry, I just need clarification. Do I need a mover for this, or you've already made the amendment?
I am a mover. You may need a seconder.
Okay, Trustee Gray, would you like to second? Okay, is there any further debate on this? Is looking again, as I said, at the school naming and renaming policy. So 6.2.2, just to make sure it's clear, because it's all a little bit lots. Okay, seeing none, if you can go to your voting page and vote, please. I think there are 3 missing, if I'm counting correctly. Nothing. Oh, I might be one of the ones that's missing. Oh yeah, because it says resubmit. Okay, there's mine. And I think there's one more person, Trustee or Vice Chair Harrison, do you?
there's, yeah, sorry.
There's one missing. Is it Trustee Reynolds? Have you clicked OK?
Yes. Is there something up with my computer? I vote yes.
Okay. All right. Awesome. So that carries unanimously. So we will move item 6.2.2 up to 5.3 point something. So I will do that in a moment. So now we will go to looking at 6.2.3, Reimagine Forward. So Vice Chair Al Harrison, would you like to move item 6.2.3, Reimagine Forward, up to 5.3 point?
Yes, I'll move that.
All right. Do I have a seconder? Trustee Amos, would you like to second? Great. Is there any debate or discussion? Great. So again, seeing none, all those in favor of moving Reimagine Forward, please. I think we are missing, again, Trustee Reynolds is there. So I think we're missing one. Trustee Bell? I think it might be who we're missing. Awesome, great. And that carries, but not unanimously. That's okay. Don't worry. We're all having issues. Manager Gortmaker.
Just as a reminder, Madam Chair, I need the names of the dissenting votes for the minutes.
So there was one dissenting vote, which was Trustee Daniele. Okay, so now we're going to go on to the third suggested amendment, which is moving 6.2.4 2022 capital priorities, again up to 5.3 point.
Chair Shuttleworth, I see Trustee Grubens wants to see, she has her hand up.
Hand up to put the motion on the floor or hand up to ask a question? I thought it was to put the motion on the floor. Okay. All right. So move capital priorities up. So Trustee Grubens, you'd like to make that motion, and anybody like to second it? Trustee Rocha, we'll give you a chance. So Trustee Rocha would like to second it. Is there any debate? Great. Seeing none, please again go to your voting sheet and cast your vote, please. Great, and that carried unanimously. Thank you very much. So all three of those items will be moved forward to action items for this evening. All right.
Just point of order?
Yes.
Could you just clarify the numbers that they'll be?
Okay, yeah, so I have to figure this all out. So it's 6 point, okay. I'm just trying to look at everything all together. So 6.2.2 school naming and renaming will come up under 5.2.3. I'm just going to move this all around because I've just got it. 5.2 for 5.3.2. No, 5.2. Oh my goodness, 5.2.3. And Reimagine Forward will move up to 5.2.4, and capital priorities will move up to 5.2.5. 5. So we'll just shift the 3 of them up in the same order that they appeared on the agenda, but up again, and be ready for this roller coaster because this will be fun. So thank you very much for all the amendments. So seeing that, again, we are going to be working with that unanimous consent idea for the agenda. So are there any objections to approving the agenda as amended? Great. Seeing none, the agenda is approved as amended. Okay. Are there any declarations of possible conflict of interest for this evening? Again,
Sorry, point of order.
Yes.
Did we actually vote on the agenda? We voted on the amendments. I don't believe we've actually voted on the agenda.
So we just did it through unanimous consent. We just checked if there were any objections towards it and
I'm
carried
sorry.
it. That's okay, no worries. It's new, so it's all new. So we're shifting and shaking, so it's all good. We're so slowly, but thank you, Trustee Amos. Okay, no possible of interest. So now we're up to 2.1, where we have no Aspire presentations for this evening. However, I would like to take this time to encourage everyone within the HDSB community to continue to find those inspiring individuals and nominate them so that they can be recognized for their outstanding contributions within the HDSB. Nomination information is available on our HDSB website. We also have no presentations or delegations this evening, so that brings us up to our consent agenda for approval and information. So we have 3 items on the approval and information docket, which are the Halton District School Board minutes for February 2nd, 2022, the order paper, the board report schedule. So are there any questions surrounding these items? Awesome. Seeing none, Trustee Collard, would you like to move a motion to deal with the consent agenda?
Yes, I would. Thanks.
And Trustee Daniele, would you like to second that motion?
Sure.
Great. So I'm going to put the motion on the floor. Be it resolved that the Halton District School Board approve the consent agenda action items or as consent agenda action and information items and receive the information items for February 2nd, 2022. Are there any items that need to be pulled for discussion? Great. So let's go over to our voting page and cast your vote, please. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda. Okay, so that carries unanimously. Thank you very much. We're now up to item 5.0, ratification or action items, and 5.1, approval of business transacted in private session. Vice Chair Al Harrison, do you have any business from private session that requires approval?
Yes, thank you. There's one item. Be it resolved that the Halton District School Board approve the resolution from the Halton District School Board meeting in private session on February 16, 2022, respecting property matters, report 22026, and I so move.
Thank you so much. And Trustee Rocha, would you like to second that motion?
Yes.
Awesome. All right. Is there any debate? Seeing none, if you could please cast your votes, please. Great, and that carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, we are now up to item 5.2, action items for February the 16th, 2022, of which we now have 5. So the first one is item 5.2.1, the rural Milton Oakville cohort alignment boundary review, report number 22017. Director Ennis, would you like to speak to this?
Thank you very much, Chair Shuttleworth. I'm going to ask Superintendent Etoff to begin the conversation, and then I know that General Manager Thibault will then give us some further details.
Thanks very much, Director Ennis. Through the chair to the Board of Trustees, both General Manager Thibault and myself are here this evening to speak with you about the rural Milton Rural Oakville Boundary Review, a report which was initially presented for information back on February the 2nd. The report is before you, and we're pleased to take any questions that you may have.
Great. Are there any questions regarding this? Oh, there we go. Sorry, Trustee Amos.
Thank you. I think you have to have put the motion on the floor for us to debate. Seconder.
Right. So I think practice usually is we ask questions, then I get a mover and seconder, read the motion, and go into debate after that.
Yeah. So mover and seconder, and then debate.
Right. So, but am I wrong? Questions come first?
Well, okay. So it's not so much of a question, but I wanted to say that it was a very good process, and I'd like to thank everyone who was involved in this because the staff did a very good job looking at all the different options. And I'd like to thank everyone involved for all the work they did on this, because it became very clear there were very few students who live in that area from the Oakville side, and mostly were from the rural Milton side. And so it made more sense for those students to attend the schools in Milton. So thank you to everyone who was involved, and I will be supporting this.
Thank you, Trustee Amos. Okay, so Trustee Grabentz, would you like to move this motion? Yes, sure. And Trustee Oliver, would you like to second this motion?
Yes.
Great, so now I'll read the motion. Be it resolved that the Halton District School Board adjusts the boundaries for Charles R. Baudouin Public School French Immersion Program as outlined.
Point of order. We haven't actually voted on the rural Milton. Oakville
okay.
Milton one yet.
I've skipped ahead because I'm trying to adjust. I am so sorry, Trustee Grabentz. I was actually on the wrong one. So actually, Trustee Garrett's, would you like to approve this motion? Sorry,
Yes,
Trustee Garrett.
Yes, I would. Thank you very much.
And Trustee Amos, would you like to second it? I'm
Yes,
sorry, I
ma'am.
got all mixed up in trying to organize things. So we'll go now read this motion, which is regarding this item. Be it resolved that the Halton District School Board adjust the boundaries for the Sunningdale Public School and White Oak Secondary School French Immersion Program as outlined in option 1, as detailed in report 22017, effective September 2022, and that the students that reside in the study area remain at their current school until graduation and be provided transportation. Is there any debate? Okay, seeing none, if you can all cast your votes, please. Awesome, and that carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Now we are up to item 5.2.2, Burlington French Immersion Cohort Alignment Boundary Review, report number 22018. Director Ennis, would you like to speak to this motion?
Thank you, Chair Shuttleworth. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Superintendent Flahat to begin the conversation.
Thank you, Director Ennis. Through the chair to the trustees, the review, the French immersion boundary review is brought for information on February the 2nd, and we would like to bring it forward. I have Senior Manager Thibault with us this evening as well, and we're happy to answer any questions that you have as well.
Great, thank you very much. Trustee Grants.
Yes, and I would just like to inform my colleagues that I have from the Florence Mears catchment area where this change is happening. I've only heard positive sentiments towards this change. And I also wanted to thank the staff for their work on this as well. It's nice to see the full circle come back to this area.
All right.
And I will move it.
Okay, so that was going to be my next question. Trustee Grants, you'd like to move that motion, and Trustee Reynolds, sorry, once again, would you like to second it?
Yes, I do.
Awesome, thank you so much. Okay, so I will now read this motion. Be it resolved that the Halton District School Board adjusts the boundaries for Charles R. Baudouin's public school French immersion program as outlined in option 1, as detailed in report 22018, effective September 2022, and that the Halton District School Board permit older siblings of students attending kindergarten to grade 1 at Florence Mears Public School as of September 2022 to be redirected to Clarksdale Public School and or Rolling Meadows Public School to Charles R. Baudouin Public School with transportation for the September 2022 school year until graduation. Is there any debate? Awesome. Seeing none, if you can pop on over again and cast your votes, please. Great, thank you so much. That carries unanimously, and thank you very much on behalf of the board for all the people on the boundary review for all the hard work that you did. Okay, so now we're going to get to the tricky bit, and there might be a couple more bumps in the road. So now, as amended, we are now going to move to item 5.2.3, school naming and renaming policy governance procedure review. On behalf of the subcommittee, Trustee Grants, would you like to speak to this?
Yes, and this is the subcommittee has met on a number of occasions since actually, I believe, March 2020. We reconvened after putting this governance procedure and policy into practice to look for areas of improvement. We have found some areas of improvement and adjusted it accordingly. This has gone to committee of the whole, and there were it was sent back to subcommittee, went back to committee of the whole, and there have been no further requests for changes. So this motion is asking, as per the custom in our board, to send this off for legal review before coming back for consideration for approval.
All right, thank you very much. All right, so Trustee Grants, would you like to move this motion?
Sure, I could do that.
And I don't know who else is on this committee that might like to second it. All right, Trustee Oliver, would you like to second that? Great. Okay. Great. Thank you so much. So I will read that motion if I can find it. Okay. So be it resolved that the Board of Trustees recommend the school naming and renaming governance procedure as appended to report 22024 be submitted for legal review prior to returning to the Board of Trustees for consideration. All right, is there any debate? Great, seeing none. If you could cast your votes, please. Okay, great, thank you so much, and that carries unanimously. Okay, so again, as amended, we have now also moved item 6.2.3 to item 5.2.4. Reimagine Forward report number 22025. Vice Chair Al Harrison, would you like to speak to this?
Sure, Madam Chair, I can absolutely speak to it briefly, recognizing that we may have a motion to defer on the table coming. And, you know, the whole point or underlying premise of this report is to further the declaration we made back in June to reimagine forward education as we move out of the pandemic. This is, as we talked about during our recent professional development, this is a generative discussion, which very much falls within the purview of trustees, and it's very much a collaborative discussion. So in that regard, if my fellow trustees have not had the opportunity to digest the information, then we should take that time. I also just want to say, as I said at Committee of the Whole when we discussed this, to please reach out if the deferral does move forward with any questions or comments. I know I've had conversations with a number of trustees in the interim since the Committee of the Whole meeting. The gist of this motion is to utilize a platform called Bang the Table to have a community-based discussion on what people imagine education can look like moving forward.
Trustee Collard.
Yes, sensing that there's some discomfort about addressing this particular motion this evening, I'd like to make a motion to defer until our next meeting.
All right, thank you, Trustee Collard. So Trustee Collard is motioning to defer this motion. Trustee Garrett, you'd like to second that? All right, is there any debate over this deferral? All right, so, Trustee Reynolds.
Thank you. Yeah, I just think it's important that we clarify what impact this deferral has on the process that was laid forward. So perhaps my colleague, Trustee Al Harrison, might want to give a snapshot of the timing, and how this impacts or not.
Vice Chair Harrison?
Sure, I'd be happy to respond. Thank you, Trustee, and through you, Chair Shuttleworth. Again, the premise of this motion and this initiative is to collaborate between ourselves and with the broader community, to be change makers, disruptors of the status quo. And therefore, it's important that everybody's on board, I believe. Now, to answer Trustee Reynolds' question, if it would have been approved this evening and the subcommittee given the mandate to move ahead, we were hoping to get the platform up and running in mid to late March, so we could then have a couple of months to have it up and open, so we could then be analyzing and reporting back by the end of this school year. So we could be providing a report back to the board, as well as a report on to the ministry and other parties who it may be of interest. So I believe that the impact would be a delay by 2 weeks of posting that platform, and thereby shortening the engagement period from about 2 months to about a month and a half. So I could also reflect that graciously staff have been collaborating in terms of the communication piece and getting the word out. So I am confident that, whenever we're ready as a group, that we'll get the word out. It's not ideal in my mind, but I think that whatever way it takes place, it will be great.
So Trustee Collard, can I just check that you want to defer it to the next board meeting, which is March the 2nd?
Yes, that was my intention. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Trustee Daniele.
Okay, and as I'm hearing everything. I really, really am, and I'm trying. And as I'm the one that is struggling the most, might I request a deferral of the deferral so that we are able to have a conversation about this and get some questions answered, and then decide if we need to defer? Is that the fairest way possible forward for the committee who feels that we are best approving this tonight, and people like myself who are trying to desperately to go through the documents to try to understand exactly what this is? Is that a possibility that we discuss the deferral after we have a conversation around what exactly bank table is, the engagement site, and things like that? Because we've been sent a lot of information to pour through, but I still don't know exactly what it is. So I have questions about that.
All right, thank you, Trustee Daniele. So now this is I don't know. So Manager Gortmaker, can you help me on this one? So can we defer the deferral, and do we have to vote on that defer of the deferral?
Well, I have to admit, Madam Chair, this is a new one for me too. May I suggest that either Trustee Grimmins or Trustee Collard chip in?
Okay, so they both got their hands up. So I don't know. I'll pick Trustee Collard. Trustee Collard, go for it. I think you had your hand up first. I don't know. Sorry, Andrea.
I can request a vote to withdraw the deferral motion. You can't defer a deferral motion, but you can withdraw a deferral motion. And so I can request a motion to withdraw the deferral motion. But I would like to know from Vice Chair L. Harrison if that would be all right with her.
Thank you. Yes, it would be all right with me. Again, the point here is that we're in this together and we're collaborating with the community. So it's fine with me, any which way people want to move forward.
Okay, and then I'll make a motion to withdraw the deferral motion.
Okay, so Trustee Grimmins, was there anything else that you had wanted to add to that, or she summed it up perfectly? Awesome. Thank you, Trustee Collard. All right, so you've now put a motion to withdraw the deferral. Do we need a seconder? Yes, we do need a seconder. Is there somebody who'd like to second? Trustee Grimmins, will you second that motion, please? Awesome. Okay, so can we now, is there any questions or debate over this? So this is we now are looking at withdrawing the deferral. Trustee Amos.
Well, I know the deferral was moved and seconded. It hadn't been voted on yet. So how can we have a motion to defer the deferral if we haven't actually got a deferral yet?
Point of order, the motion is not to defer the deferral. It is to withdraw the motion to defer.
Okay, but we haven't got the motion to defer voted on yet.
But there's still the motion on the floor, if I'm right, Trustee Collard. So there's a motion on the floor, so we need to pull it off the floor, sweep the carpet out from underneath it. So am I understanding that correctly? I see some nods. Okay, so now we're voting on withdrawing the deferral from the floor. All those Cast your votes, please. Great, thank you so much. That carries unanimously. So we're going to put this motion back on the floor about reimagining forward. Vice Chair Al Harrison, do you want to put the motion on the floor? Again, do I need to put it back on the floor?
It didn't make it there the first time. So.
Oh, great, great. So now we're going to put it on the floor. So Vice Chair Al Harrison, would you like to put that motion on the floor?
Yes, I can move that motion, certainly.
And Trustee Reynolds, would you like to second that motion, please? Great. Okay, so now I'm going to read it if I can. Okay, here it is. Be it resolved that the Reimagine Forward Subcommittee be authorized to finalize plans to implement a community engagement initiative focused on generating ideas for a positive post-pandemic vision for education, utilizing the Bang the Table platform at the cost not to exceed $10,000 plus HST to be funded through the Trustee Prior Term Reserve Account. Be it further resolved that the subcommittee will work with all trustees to implement this initiative and report back to the board prior to the end of the 2021-2022 school year. And be it further resolved that this initiative also be circulated to OPSPA, local members of the provincial parliament, the Minister of Education, local members of parliament, code, people for education, among others. All right, so is there any debate? Trustee Grabant. Sorry, and Trustee Danielle, you're next on the speakers list.
I am in favor of this motion and very excited to be able to engage the community, to hear what they have to say, and to be able to get a report back to the table and information out before the end of this school year, as we all know, heading into the summer, especially as this is an election year for trustees. It becomes dicier and dicier as we wait to move forward on things as we get closer to October. So it would be, I would like to get this done and engage with the community and get that information to the community now, so it doesn't, so it's not feeling almost political. So let's back away from that sort of political side of things.
Thank you, Trustee Grabant. Trustee Daniele and Trustee Collard, you're next after Trustee Daniele.
Thank you. And I'm not going to say that I'm for or against this yet because I don't know. I do have a number of questions, and I'll probably have to go on the list. One of my first ones, it mentions in here a lot an SLA. And I'm sorry, I've tried to go through like 40, 50 pages of notes, and I can't figure out what an SLA is. So if somebody would just text me what that is, I'd appreciate it. Some of my questions are on, this is an engagement site, so I'm understanding it would be separate from the HDSB site. It would be hosted by Bang the Table. So one of my first questions is, this $10,000 is for 6 months. What happens after the 6 months to that particular website? Do we have to keep paying to be able to use it? Does it disappear? What happens to all the data that's being driven with it? I am looking towards that end piece, and I do have other questions, and I will go back on the list.
Thank you, Trustee Daniele. Vice Chair Al Harrison, is it all right if I direct all these questions towards you?
Yes, and committee, if there's anything I missed, then please. So the term of this agreement would be, it is a pilot project license. So it is at a very fine rate, let me just say. And if And it's also a pilot for the school board because it is a very common platform that is used in our communities. So Burlington, Oakville, and Halton Hills, as I'm aware, utilize this platform. The data is hosted in Canada. The data is owned by HDSB. So whether the school board decides or not to renew for purposes of other programs or processes that are going forward, HDSB would be downloading and retaining that data in any regard. And so therefore, moving forward, the research department could utilize it for other analytical purposes.
Thank you. I'll go back on the list.
Thank you both, Trustee Daniele and Vice Chair Harrison. All right, Trustee Collard.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that I'm in favor of this motion. It sounds like a wonderful way to engage the community in how to move forward post-pandemic. And I am hopeful that we will be able to get to this work sooner rather than later. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Garrett.
Thank you. Did we shop around to see what other options we had? And it's the motion says up to $10,000, but what do you anticipate in spending? And I have other questions after that.
Okay, Vice Chair Harrison.
Through you, Madam Chair. We collaborated with Associate Director on this, and he looked into some platforms that were, I guess, previously utilized. I'm not going to name any particular platforms per se for reasons of their confidentiality, but suffice it to say that this one was orders of magnitude less, and further that they have presented a very competitive price because they haven't worked with the board before. And they are interested in showcasing what could be done in the education sector, for example. So yes, we did look around, and yes, this did compare very, very favorably, but not only in terms of the price wise, just also in terms of the functionality that we would have access to. And one of the other interesting pieces here is that it's moderated 24/7 by one of their staff people. So anything that is not within keeping with the spirit of the project, which is extremely positive, would be flagged and removed. So there is also that kind of moderation and safety piece associated with it. Thank you.
Thank you. So Trustee Reynolds, I think you're a first-time speaker on this. So Trustee Daniele, you'll come after her.
Thank you. Through the chair, I was just going to add in a piece of information that was, I think, really valuable for myself in this process. This vendor has been used in the West in Vancouver Public School Board. Vancouver School Board has utilized them. There are other Western provinces that have used them. We've been able to look at what they've done, and it very much confirmed that this is a good fit for our sector, but an amazing fit for the cost factor for what we're going to get.
Thank you, Trustee Reynolds. Trustee Daniele, you're up again.
Thank you. Moving on to my next questions. It talked about staff time involved, and I was wondering if I could have some more details on that. Exactly which staff would be involved and what kind of timing, because that is a concern for me. And then again, I'll go back on the list for my next question.
Thank you, Trustee Daniele. Vice Chair Harrison.
Sure, I can start, but I don't want to speak on behalf of staff either. So through you, Chair, we have collaborated with Associate Director Bogue and Superintendent Podra Barrick. And it's that communications function just to get the word out. But trustees would own the content piece, the analysis piece, the reporting piece. So it's that little bit of support to get the word out. And Associate Director Bogue, I also would not forget the piece about shepherding through the procurement piece should this move forward. So over to you for any additional comments.
Yeah, thanks, Vice Chair L. Harrison. I think you've captured it. This is pretty light for staff right now. I think our group of trustees have really taken on the bulk of this. We're there to support trustees, so we will do the behind the scenes work, the procurement, the communications. We might be able to help a little bit, just a tiny little bit with some of the data piece, but the bulk of that will lay with trustees, and so we're happy to support this project 100%.
Thank you. May I have a follow-up?
Go ahead.
Just because you had mentioned the procurement and the communications piece, and I wondered if there was a budget for the communications or if we thought that would be any extraordinary expense.
Were you directing that to me, Trustee Daniele?
I know my rules. I am directing that to my chair. She can direct it there.
So, Associate Director Bogue, you might have the answer for that.
Actually, I see Superintendent Podra Barrick is lit up, so I'm going to defer to him. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, through the chair to Trustee Daniele. We don't anticipate any significant out-of-pocket expenses from a communications lens. Our budget's small, so I would know if it was taking a hit here, and we don't anticipate any real costs at all, Trustee Daniele.
Thank you. So I'm just going to assume if I don't see hands, I'm going to go back to Trustee Garrett's. And then back to Daniele.
Thank you so much. So who will be, please clarify, who will be analyzing the data? And then the time frame, it seems to me, is we're going to get a report back by June. Is that correct? And the other piece I'm concerned about is confidentiality if it's not our trustees that are doing all the analysis.
Vice Chair Harrison?
Okay, yes, thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the question. I would remind trustees of the two really, I think, successful Halton Education Action initiatives that we hosted a couple pre-pandemic. And in a pre-pandemic world, we may very well be doing the exact same thing. But given the situation that we're in, moving to a virtual platform is a way to continue to move forward and harness those ideas of the community. So in terms of that analysis piece, I anticipate that it would happen in a very similar way, in the sense that a subcommittee of trustees took that data and shaped and analyzed and created a report all the time in collaboration with the entire group of trustees. And all trustees through this agreement, should we move forward, will be have access to the training that's proposed, so people understand both the front end and the back end being where you get the data and the reports that can be generated and that sort of thing. So everybody can be involved. And additionally, staff, there's opportunity for as many staff as are interested that may potentially use this tool in the future. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Vice Chair Harrison. Trustee Daniele.
Thank you. And may I say, I do greatly appreciate your patience with all of my questions. Very much appreciated. Mine actually, I was thinking along the same lines as Trustee Garrett's, I think, because I am on page 9 of the Engagement IQ Prospectus. And it talks about the session 1, strategies for organizational adoption, discuss organizational priorities, establish goals and objectives, It's the organizational priorities, because I assume this would be being done by the Reimagining Forward Committee, which is made up of 5 trustees, and our committees can only have 5 trustees because you can't have 6 of us. But there's no voice of the North there. It is a Burlington Oakville centric committee, and that is a bit of a concern for me. So I'm curious to know what you will be doing to bring in the organizational priorities as laid out here from all of the trustees.
Thank you for the question. Oh, sorry, Chair.
No, just go. I will just sort of do this.
Okay, thank you so much. And through you, Madam Chair, that is a great question, Trustee Daniele, and we can really manage that piece in a number of ways. So the training piece, just like much of the professional development that we've had lately, where everybody has been involved, can attend those sessions. We also have built in here report backs to Committee of the Whole every month we can be seeking that kind of information. And we can also create those direct channels to people from the North. I feel like I'm too far into it to step back and offer my spot to a person from the North, but I'd be happy to if that wasn't the case. And Chair Shuttleworth is raising her hand.
Yeah, so I too am on that committee, and I will happily, if there is a need for somebody from the North to come, I would happily allow you to take my place. So
it's a great point.
That is very, very much appreciated, because I know we'll get the training and we'll get the reports through, but so much is going to be done at that beginning in informing the questions, informing what you're looking for, and those organizational priorities. And life, particularly in rural Milton and Halton Hills, can be very, very different than say the southern wards of Oakville and Burlington. And we also have different internets and things like that capacities. So I just want to make sure that we're able to have a fulsome community engagement that will involve all communities. So thank you very much for that, Chair Shuttleworth. That is very much appreciated, creating a space for someone from the North. That does make it a little easier for me. And again, at this point, I don't have anything else listed on here. You may see my hand again, but I am feeling a significant amount more comfort. So thank you again for all of your patience. I do appreciate it.
no worries. Thank you so much, Trustee Daniele. Trustee Garrett, so I'm just going to pop back to check.
I'm just formulating another question, so maybe go on to someone else.
So there's no one right now on the speakers list. I'll give a moment. So it always happens, right? So I could add something to the piece that I think might add some, I don't know. I just think back to the training that we did, and when we had the picture with the community at the top and talking about that importance of those connections between there. I think this is somewhat supportive even of the training that we've had over the last 3 training sessions. It does give back, I don't know if the picture is in the training that we have here, but it was in the PowerPoint. But it's that idea of always collecting that information from the community and having that relationship. There was an idea of it being the ownership, but we don't necessarily think the ownership is the right word to use. Great. Trustee Oliver, I think you're a first-time speaker, so I'll let you go first. And then Trustee Garrett, you're back up.
Thanks, through you, Chair. Yeah, so I'm just going to maybe pull some thoughts together to help us understand how this is a valuable work that we are embarking on. I'm very excited by this initiative, obviously, because I also volunteer to be part of the subcommittee. We did set out a direction for our school board through a multi-year plan, and one of our commitments is that of learning and achievement, with the goal to create learning conditions to elevate student achievement. And so that, along with our responsibility with respect to governance and direction setting, and our need for accountability to the students and caregivers who are customers and owners of the school system, which is what I believe you, Chair Shuttleworth, are referring to, puts the onus on our Board of Trustees to make sure that we are building and supporting an education system that helps to prepare our students for the global community. And so I believe that the vision that the Reimagine Subcommittee has formulated is very well aligned and responsive with our board's responsibilities and the commitments we have set out for our school board. And this is a platform that appears to be very kind of user-friendly, that will allow us to engage our community stakeholders in a number of ways and gain some really great insights in how we proceed and how we continue to build and improve our education system. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Oliver. Trustee Garrett.
Thank you. Through you to Vice Chair L. Harrison, I think you might be able to answer this because it was something you mentioned a little right at the beginning of this discussion. You mentioned that, you know, we want to become disruptors. I understand that. Part of the motion also indicates that you want to share with the ministry and OPSPA, et cetera. My concern, maybe it isn't valid, is that we will be disrupting the ministry to the point where we won't make them very happy. And right now we're asking, and our hands are out a lot for funds, et cetera. And we seem to be always knocking on their door for this, that, and the next thing. So are we going to be pushing the envelope too much? I guess that's a concern I have.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, to Trustee Garrett and all trustees. It's a great question. And we are fulfilling a motion that we supported back in June. And one of the sub-clauses of the motion was to request that the ministry and the minister undertake this work. And it was not taken up. And many parties from around the province are really, in a positive way, disrupting. Disrupting may not be the correct word, but in a positive way, really wanting to harness all of this change to do better for students, do better for staff, and society in general. So this is really about kind of harnessing those big picture ideas and understanding what our community is interested in and providing that information. So it's almost like I think we're doing a service by, answering the call that so many parties have had by providing a forum to have those positive discussions. This isn't about, we could always use more resources. It's absolutely true, but it's kind of that big picture piece, and how can we inspire is maybe a better word than disrupt, but inspire those changes.
Thank you.
Thank you. I see, I'm just going to give a little pause because I know that there has sometimes been some deeper thinking going on. So I see no other questions. Okay, I see no other questions. So then, if we want to go back, do you want me to reread the motion, or are we good with it because we've had quite a lengthy discussion? Or, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do best practice and try to put it up on the screen. Just give me a second to see if I can do that. Okay. Window. Okay, can we all see it? I'm going to zoom it in. There, can we see it? Oopsie, whoops. Yes? I don't know. I'm assuming, can we? Oh, yes, we can. I can see that we see it. So
yeah, we can see it.
Okay, so be it resolved that the Reimagine Forward Subcommittee be authorized to finalize plans to implement a community engagement initiative focused on generating ideas for a positive post-pandemic vision for education, utilizing the Bang the Table platform at a cost not to exceed $10,000 plus HST, and to be funded through the trustee prior term reserve account. Be it further resolved that the subcommittee will work with all trustees to implement this initiative and to report back to the board prior to the end of the 2021-2022 school year. And be it further resolved that this initiative also be circulated to OPSPA, local members of provincial parliament, the Minister of Education, local members of parliament, code, people for education, among others. And this was moved by Vice Chair Al Harrison and seconded by Trustee Reynolds. So if you can go over to your voting forms and cast your votes, please. Awesome. And that carries unanimously. Thank you very much. And again, thank you so much for the engaged discussions to ensure everybody had a good understanding of what was being asked of them. So I appreciate that. Okay, awesome. Now, again, for our next amendment, we are up to what was 6.2.4, which is now 5.2.5, 2022 Capital Priorities, report number 22021. Superintendent Nagoy and Executive Officer Gaudette. Oh, sorry, Director Ennis, their names are attached to it, so I'm just going directly to them. Sorry.
Thank you, and for the chair, to all trustees. This evening we have a report, a surprise report for a new capital priority round of funding that has been released just about a week or a week and a half ago, and is due to the ministry on February 25th. So not a lot of time. We had about 3 weeks in between to determine the capital priorities to submit. It does come with a mandatory 2 new projects that have not before been submitted. So that certainly has given us the opportunity to review some of the other priorities that we haven't considered, as well as attaching up to 3 of the existing capital priorities that were submitted in the past. And with that, I will pass it on to General Manager Thibault to walk us through some of the reasoning behind the 5 proposed projects for tonight.
Perfect. Thank you, Superintendent Nagoy, and through you, Chair Shuttleworth, to trustees. So as Superintendent Nagoy had pointed out, we're allowed to provide up to 5 proposals, and of those proposals, 2 new ones, that mandatory new ones. So if we do not do that, then we are not considered complete, and therefore we're not they're not going to consider any of the business cases. And then 3 repeats. So if you recall from the last round of capital priorities, we were successful in getting priorities number 1, which was Oakville number 3. We got a portion of priority number 2, which was the childcare for the high school, and we got Milton 13 funded, which left us with Milton District High School addition, post corners, right sizing and addition, as well as Oakville number 5 public school as the remaining 3. So we're proposing to resubmit those projects as part of this round of capital priority submission. With regards to, so that would be Oakville number 5, Milton District High School, and post corners, we would resubmit them as is where is. So we're not looking at any changes. So that way it's we haven't really seen any need to adjust the business case itself in terms of the size of school as well as the scope. That said, because we're a year out now, we are delaying the opening years that we're proposing. So they've been pushed between 1 to 2 years out based on what's provided in this report. And in terms of the 2 new priorities that we're proposing, the first one is project at Paul A. Fisher. It's a smaller school in Northwest Burlington. Essentially, what we're looking to do there is to right-size the school so that we have the adequate number of kindergarten classrooms for the growth and the sustainable population. So that's going from 2 to 3, and then adding a few other classrooms. We are currently exploring as well the possibility of incorporating a 3-room childcare project as part of this. We're still having to work with our CMSM to determine whether or not that's viable. So we're working in tow with them as we speak. We're not sure if that's going to meet their requirements, but as Superintendent Goy pointed out, we have very short timelines. So we're making some assumptions here that it would go through. So we're hoping to get that answer by next week. And given that there's also some other renewal needs and school improvement needs for the school, what we'd look at doing is bundling the whole project as a whole, so that we're doing an addition, we're doing internal renovations, because it is an open concept school that we'd like to make a little bit more to what we're building now, which is closed rooms, as well as addressing some of the renewal works. So that's the Paul A. Fisher project that we're looking at. And then our second new priority would be a scope change to the Milton 13 public school project that we were just funded for. And what we'd look to do here is similarly to what we had accomplished for Milton 11, which was to incorporate a 6-classroom addition to that school as we're under construction. In this case, we're looking to do the same thing, but pre-construction, so that we can envelope this with the current approvals, and that the architect, when they start working on it, they can just go straight to incorporating that as part of the design. We expect that Milton 13 is going to need it, but will also help in terms of holding the growth that'll be occurring in the next expansion areas in the town of Milton, being the Phase 4 lands, up until those sites become ready. Now, I do want to say this is because of the short turnaround in putting this list together. At this time, I'd say that the priority ranking that we present tonight in this report may change, and will more than likely change as we gather more information. We're meeting with the ministry, we're discussing with developers, and we're discussing with our CMSM to see exactly, where these projects land in terms of their viability and timing. So I foresee that there may be some changes. Yesterday afternoon, we had a chat with the ministry, and some of these projects we've seen as being maybe not as urgent of need, so we might move things around. Some of the new projects we might move up, and some of the resubmission projects we might move down as well. One of them will probably be also the Oakville number 5, which we're seeing that there may be some delays in terms of getting the site made available to us on time. Because the one thing I caution to is we don't want to get ourselves in a situation with getting funding for a site that we can't have access to, which delays our construction start, which then makes the benchmark funding stale. So we're trying to balance those concerns as well. And when the next round of capital priorities will be released. So with that, I just want to forewarn that the submission may change in priority ranking depending on the new information we gather before we submit next Friday to the ministry. So if there are any substantive changes, we will be sure to notify trustees of the amended priority ranking. But I will say this, the projects here are the ones that we will be submitting. We don't have time, nor do I foresee any additional projects that would make the list that meet the criteria that were set up by the ministry. And I mentioned the part about the childcare at Paul A. Fisher. So again, that's contingent on the CMSM approving that. So if they say yes, great. If they say no, then we'll pull it out. We'll just do it as a standalone JK edition. Happy to take any questions and or to expand on any of the projects that we're presenting here.
Thank you so much. All right, I'm looking to the floor. Trustee Amos.
Thank you very much. It's very exciting that they're asking for capital submissions, especially with the upcoming election. So I'm very happy that they're aware that they're school boards that need to be continued to build, because there will be a delay after the election. I am a little concerned about a potential delay for number 5, because I was very excited to see as number 1, because I was driving up there today and there is building north of Burnhamthorpe now, and I know that they're designated to go to River Oaks at this point, and some of them to Fulgarwood, and River Oaks is just growing and growing, and I know the same is happening to Fulgarwood. And busing costs a fair amount as well. So it's apples and oranges. So if but you said, I guess there's a potential problem with getting property. I'm hoping that maybe it doesn't get too far down the list, because I really feel that that community needs those schools, and it's and that the builders could be somehow negotiated with to make some of that property available, because I'm hearing from that community a lot about, first of all, having to be bused, which I totally sympathize with. And they're a different community than where Oakville number 3 is going to be going to, because they're more north of where Onawi is. So that community is growing faster and faster. And I saw cars in the houses of those newly built homes, and we're going to be getting more and more questions. So like I said, I'm very excited about the fact they're asking, but I'm very concerned that potentially it might be knocked down the list.
General Manager Tebow, do I have it right? I got it right. Yes.
All good, all good. Through you, Chair Shuttleworth, to Trustee Amos. No, and initially I was sharing your same concern. So the discussions we were having, I won't go into all the details, but they don't get easier, these sites, is what I'm learning. This one, the way that it's receiving its services is actually tied to 5 different developers. So where our water or stormwaters go to 2 different ponds. Our roadway is on 3 different property owners, and then so it's one of those things where, albeit we have been innovative, like in Udinawi was a great example of how we've gone about doing certain things to make it work. The problem is to get to a new Udinawi stage, we're pretty far out in terms of when that's going to be available, which is beyond a little bit what our construction timing is. So the opening date for the school right now, we're uncertain based on when that community is going to build out. But again, to your concern, Trustee Amos, what I'd like to say is that community, or that school, is meant to serve that community. So we're tying that school opening with essentially the first occupied units. So as we talk with our developer counterparts, if they're saying their timings that those houses won't come online till much later, that's where I'm seeing concern, where if we get funded for it, we might be sitting on that for quite some time, and we won't have access to the site because of the servicing not being there and the grading not being done and the work's not being done. So that's where we're still analyzing that to make sure that, if it makes sense, because right now, from what I'm gathering, it's maybe a little premature at this point. So yes, the community is going to be served by this school, but the community that's going to be served isn't really there yet for starting up on units in the foreseeable future.
Thank you for that. I do believe some of the community is there, though, because
north of Burnham Thorpe, yes.
Yeah, so I believe some of that community is there. It may not be the full community, but there are some of that community that is there. And so I would love to be like Onawi, a little bit forward of where, because if you build it, they will come. And so I'm hoping there is some wiggle room with those developers. And while they might give you delayed timelines now, I can guess if they have that opportunity, they will move forward. So thank you for investigating it. I do appreciate it. And like I said, I just want to let you know the community's concerns, because I'm hearing from that whole pocket of people about their concerns. So thank you so much for all your hard work.
And if I may, real quick, Oakville 3 is one of the things that will be addressing some of the schools you had mentioned earlier as part of that review. So as we're moving that one forward, I think that'll be kind of the intermediate that will start putting North Oakville kids back into North Oakville. So it's certainly something that's on our radar as part of that future boundary review.
Thank you so much. Trustee Gray.
Yes, thank you very much. Through the chair, question that I'd have to direct. I see in the report that the boards are to submit their most urgent priorities to the ministry no later than February 25, 2022. Has there been any indication from the ministry of when we might be able to hear back from them? I guess I raise this question because of the simple fact that we are in a year where it's thought that a writ will be dropped and that we will have perhaps a government that will sort of stall or slow down a bit. So I'm just wondering if you see, when you see the answers coming back from the ministry on this. Thank you.
Director Ennis.
Sorry. Fred?
Yep. So we've been hearing rumblings that it'll be prior to the writ dropping. Now that those are rumblings. We haven't got confirmation yet or any official communication, but I think that, given the timing of this, I would assume probably some messaging prior to that happening.
If I could just add, Chair Shuttleworth, we're just grateful for any supports to the points that Trustee Amos made. I think that this is very timely, and we want to make sure that we're moving as expeditiously as possible to fulfill all the requirements.
Thank you. And Director Ennis, you kind of lead me into my kind of question. I'm just thinking about the timelines of capital priorities. So I know like 2023, 24 seems like a long way away, but these are big additions. So are we concerned at all that these timelines that we have will match the development of the schools if approved to go forward? I just know that we've had with capital priorities in the past, there's all different steps you have to take. And so I'm just wondering what your opinion is on that, because I know we have asked for them to streamline the process. And I'm just wondering if there has been any movements forward with that and if the timelines are appropriate.
General Manager Thibault.
Through Chair Shuttleworth to you, I completely agree with you. 2023 is around the bend. Even 25 right now seems to be just around the corner. So I'd say, have we seen the streamlining of the process, occur? I'd say at this time, I think it's still in the works with the ministry. I haven't really seen that happen yet. But we're trying, when we're making these estimates, we have certainly inflated the construction timeline to reflect these delays and try to put a more realistic timing around it. And again, these opening years are all tentative and targeted, so that they're like based on, some expeditious approvals or reasonably timed approvals is how we're doing it. But again, it all depends on when the announcements are made, how long the approval to proceed process goes, how things get tendered. It's, there's a lot of if, whens, and buts, and there seems to be a lot more challenges than there are. A lot more challenges than things getting easier on some of these cases.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay. Seeing no more questions, I'm going to try this again, and I'm going to put the motion up on the screen. Let's see if it works. There we go. And I'm going to read the motion. Oh, no, sorry. I'm going to first ask if Trustee Grabent would like to move this motion.
Sure, I'd be happy to.
And Trustee Garrett, would you like to second it?
Yes, thank you. I would.
Awesome. So I'm now going to read it. Be it resolved that the Halton District School Board approve the projects as identified in Report 22021 to be submitted to the Ministry of Education as part of the 2022-2023 Capital Priorities Program submission. And be it resolved that the Halton District School Board authorize staff to alter the priority rankings as new information becomes available. Is there any further debate? Seeing none, if you'd all like to pop on over to your voting forms and cast your votes, please. Awesome, and that carries unanimously. And again, thank you so much on behalf of the board to General Manager Thibault, Superintendent Nagoy, and Executive Officer Gaudette for all the work you've done on making this happen, and good luck. So thank you very much. Okay, We are now back to, hopefully, 6.0, communications to the board. First off, we have 6.1, the student trustee report. Trustee Vigilankara and Trustee Bao, do you have a report for us this evening?
Hi, yes, we do.
Great. I'll pass the floor over to you.
Thank you. So good evening, everyone. At our last Senate meeting on February 8th, both the elementary and secondary panels unanimously passed the following motion. The HDSB Student Senate goals for the 2021-2022 school year are rooted in the areas of equity and inclusion, Indigenous rights, environmental sustainability, mental health and well-being, with an emphasis on health and safety in schools, and learning and achievement. Through these actionable goals, the Student Senate aims to advocate for improved education and accessibility of board resources and opportunities, greater transparency, and student consultation on board decisions impacting student experience. As we've mentioned previously, these goals are being fulfilled by our subcommittees, which reflect each pillar in the multi-year plan. After passing this motion, we had the opportunity to discuss any relevant student issues in schools during our open floor sessions for both the elementary and secondary panels. Lots of great ideas were exchanged, including a proposal by a couple of our secondary senators to implement a graduation subcommittee. As you may remember, last year we had a team of grade 8 and grade 12 senators share student suggestions for alternative graduation ideas, including the great idea to have drive-by graduations. As it approaches grad planning season, our senators are hoping to once again share their input on COVID-safe graduation activities for the year. During the joint session, we had the pleasure of hosting Superintendent Dean Barnes. The senators were delighted to learn more about his super cool NHL hockey card collection, and also to learn about and celebrate Black achievement in hockey. Our next Senate meeting is on Tuesday, March 8th, and we're hoping to begin planning for our annual Halton Youth Leadership Symposium in May. It might seem early, but it's never too early to start planning for HYLS. It's usually a huge task, so we're excited to begin that. Recently, we shared our student recommendations for the Student Equity Committee with the Department for Indigenous Rights and Education, Human Rights and Equity, and we've been receiving lots of comments and suggestions. We hope to have another update for all of you once we have a chance to review the feedback. And lastly, as you may already know, the student trustee election season is upon us, and our 15 wonderful candidates have begun campaigning. I'll pass it over to Trustee Bao to share our updates on the elections.
Thank you, Trustee Villankara. Yesterday, we met with our website managers and Ms. Patello to work on uploading and putting all the candidate posters and responses onto our Student Senate website. The website has been made available, and a message was sent out to all grades 7 to 12 students today regarding the candidates' posters and responses. This year, we have decided to include a new element to the elections, that is our candidate question response. So our senators and students have sent in questions, and all candidates had to answer the question, how are you a leader in your daily life, in a written response. In our email, we also provided an update to all students that we have 15 candidates running for the upcoming election, and we shared the link to view posters and written responses. The student trustee candidates videos will be made available on our board's YouTube playlist as well as the voting site. This year, we decided to make a playlist with each individual candidate video instead of one large video with all of them combined. Our reasoning behind this decision was because candidates whose videos were earlier on may have a greater advantage as more people would view their campaign video. So with our method, students can pick and choose which candidate videos they would like to watch. In terms of recruiting non-senators onto our Student Senate subcommittees, we met with our execs and co-chairs last Saturday to discuss ideas. We decided that there will be an application process, and each subcommittee will be recruiting 2 elementary and 2 secondary students from each region, with the exception of our Equity and Inclusion subcommittee that will be recruiting 3 elementary and 3 secondary non-senators, as that is our biggest subcommittee. So thank you for listening to our student trustee report this evening, and Trustee Villankara and I are happy to answer any questions you may have.
Great, thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions for Trustee Vigilankara or Trustee Bao? So I have one quick question. The window for watching the videos for the upcoming student trustee elections, how long will you have them online for students to be able to access?
I can take this question. Thank you so much through the chair to the chair. I'm just double checking with our timelines document. I believe last year we gave, I think, a couple days for students to watch the videos prior to the actual like site being live and the voting beginning. So if I just refer to the document, because I'm sorry, I don't have it off the top of my head. I believe, so Tuesday, February 22nd, students will receive an email with the link to the videos. And so that gives them 2 days prior to the actual election on the 24th to view the videos. And then obviously on the 24th, they can also still watch the videos, and voting opens at 8 a.m. and closes at 5:30 p.m. So there will be a chance to view the videos prior to the voting beginning. Thank you for that question.
No problem. Oh, he's gone now. So I guess Superintendent Trufin was there, but he disappeared. So I guess you answered the question well enough for him not to have to add on to it. Yes?
I was just going to help Vandy if she couldn't find the timeline, because they have done an amazing job with the timeline.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And yes, it's been great. It's great to watch. So that's my question. I see no more. So again, thank you so much. It's always so wonderful to hear your complete and detailed account of what's been going on in your world. Thank you so much. And we look forward to hearing again from you in 2 weeks. Okay. We are now on to 6.2, items for action at our next board meeting, which is March the 2nd, 2022. So as per our bylaws, many items come to the board for decision, which need to come to the board table more than one time. The first time for information and the second time for consideration for approval. This board meeting, this gives the board and the public time to consider these items. Originally, we had 3 items here, but 2 of them moved. And so now we only have 1, which is 6.2.1, Safe and Accepting Schools Policy, report number 22023. Director Ennis, if it's okay, I can just direct this directly to Superintendent Podberg as he's named beside the policy.
Please go ahead.
Hi, two trustees. This is a small amendment to this policy to include our work around anti-sex trafficking and that new PPM. So this is reflecting that through our Safe and Accepting Schools policy. This was brought forward at Committee of the Whole for sharing as well. We have included after some suggestions from Trustee Rocha, we have included a few updates just to talk about some of the safety aspects in this policy, and that would include our work around violent threat risk assessment, exclusion, and the anti-sex trafficking work as well. So that is a new paragraph included since added following our Committee of the Whole. So I just wanted to highlight that. And happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions regarding this policy? Trustee Oliver.
Thank you, through you, Chair. So I did participate in the Committee of the Whole meeting, and I did see your presentation. Thank you. I was unable to ask you my question properly because, if you recall, my mic was malfunctioning, so I was trying to use my chat and couldn't type fast enough for a conversation. So I just, I do recall you mentioned that staff training would take place in the fall. And my question and concern really is, given that this is a prevalent, I don't even know what to call it, criminal, I guess, activity, and which puts our students at risk. It's kind of a, you know, maybe our families are not as familiar or aware that it is a concern and that that our students are at risk. I'm wondering what kind of information sharing and kind of preliminary training is taking place in the meantime before you engage staff in the full-on formal training in the fall. In other words, are we making our staff aware, you know, of, at least in the basic level, what to look out for what are some signs and symptoms, how to communicate that, how to, protect the student, or how to, work with the student's friends who might be aware of something like that happening. Is there anything in the works in the meantime, so that, this is precious time and we don't want to, have anybody unequipped and anybody at risk when we could do something about it. Thank you.
Every September, we have a day dedicated really to health and safety training. This past September, that's exactly what we did. We built some of the bigger components around anti-sex trafficking into that training. So most of that work was done in September. Our staff do have some basic in-depth. This has always really been reflected as well in our child abuse admin procedures as well, in terms of duty to report. So that's not totally unfamiliar to our staff. So the training we did in September, plus our secondary schools have always had aspects of this built in. This will just be expanded and more in depth. So we don't feel we're totally exposed on this topic in our system right now, but this will certainly go more in depth in reaching out more to the community and raising awareness around it. It is certainly a growing area of concern and criminality, as you have noted, Trustee Oliver.
All right. Thank you very much. Are there any more questions? Trustee Rocha.
Yes, through the chair. Prior to this meeting, I had read the policy, and I made a suggestion to Superintendent Padra-Barrick about changing one line item. Is that something that I could address here, in the hopes that, well, I think it will be changed, but do we want to address it here, the one line that may change before it comes to the board in March?
Yeah, Trustee Rocha was just suggesting the inclusion of, rather than just safe learning environments, tending more of a student-focused wording to it's the broader of well-being of students, which I think is a healthy change. I would happily include that in this document. It's just a small change of wording, if trustees are fine with that.
That good?
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so okay, so are there any further questions? All right, so again, thank you so much, Superintendent Padra-Barrick, to bring this forward to us. We look forward to seeing it again in 2 weeks when we've had time to have a more detailed look at it and come to a conclusion about it. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, we are now up to 6.3 information reports, and there are no information reports this evening. So now we're up to 6.4. Are there any notices of motion this evening? Wonderful. So there are not. So we are now up to 6.5, the director's report. Director Ennis, you have 5 items on this: vaccine compliance, masking protocols, and N95 update, case management and reporting, director speaker series, PPM 81 update, and then that wonderful other. So the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you very much, Chair Shuttleworth. Good evening, everyone. We're going to start the director's report this evening with the vaccination compliance and the other sundry pieces. I'm going to ask Superintendent Taha to begin the conversation.
Good evening. Thank you, Director Ennis, through you, Chair Shuttleworth, to the rest of the board. In terms of our vaccination numbers, we continue to experience positive numbers. Our district rate is 90.1% overall, and the rate of vaccination for our permanent staff is approaching 96%. We're at 95.8%. With respect to booster shots, and this is data that the ministry had requested that we report monthly, 4,397 employees have affirmed that they have received their booster shot, which is 44% of the population, which is consistent with the provincial average. When I say the provincial average, not only the education sector average, but the average in the province in terms of the number of individuals who have received their booster shots. And I can report that 52% of our staff, permanent staff, have received their boosters. So that's also going in the right direction. As far as masking protocols and N95 provisions, we continue to provide masks in the same manner that the ministry had provided for us. Grade 2 masks and N95 masks are always available to staff. And so not much has changed since our last update with respect to masks. And happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions for Superintendent Taha? Great. Thank you so much. Director Ennis.
Thank you. We're going to ask Superintendent Blackwell if she would give us an update on case management and reporting and any latest information that she has to share with us from Public Health.
Thank you, Director Ennis, and through the chair to trustees. With respect to case management and reporting, you'll recall that schools are reporting daily. That data is produced and shared publicly by school at a provincial website, the Ministry of School Ministry site for absenteeism and school closures. If you look, you might be interested in looking at your own school data. The absence or the absence rate's very low in our schools. Most schools are under 10% absence rate, which would not be unusual in any year. We also have other data which we report to Public Health where a school may be over 30% absent rate. We've had to do that once for a situation in one of our schools, but it is then when the analysis is made in terms of the school and the baseline data, it is not an absence rate compared related to COVID, so high rates of COVID. So lots of information is available still for families. Our booster and adding our vaccination update. I'll take a plug for Public Health here. The second doses for our 5 to 11-year-olds are increasing. I think we're at 33% today, which is great. Second doses. Third doses are now going to be available for Halton for 12 and over. Those appointments are walk-in clinics, so people do not need to book appointments. There should be a communication going home to families this week to have further information about vaccinations and opportunities. So the 5 to 11-year-old first dose is at 65%, I think, 65, 66, so still increasing, which is great, and continued opportunities. And I think just a couple of other things which families will be very much aware of. And our board website has been reorganized for families around the COVID page that helps people identify the information. Extracurricular activities are resuming. We know that there's new guidance that will be provided as well coming prior to March 1st. And federal guidance around travel has also changed. So anyone traveling beyond March 1st that is under 12 that is unvaccinated, previously or up till March 1st, they need to isolate or they cannot come to school for 14 days when they return from international travel, and that is changing. So for those folks that are looking for March break and considering plans, that guidance is changing, and we'll communicate when it becomes updated in the school guidance.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Superintendent Blackwell? Trustee Oliver.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Chair. I have a question from a parent in my community who was referring to some measures that we have in place and just commenting on them and wondering if they're still required. So the two things that she reflected on in particular, and I know this is something that we've also heard from our student senators over the course of the past year, is the strict enforcement of outdoor cohorts in designated play zones on school property, which really limits access to other peers and friends and the larger student population by limiting who the student can play with or spend time with at recess. And the other was around when we've seen this in the broader society, there was a little perhaps an unnecessary overpaying of attention to touch surfaces, whereas we know it's a respiratory airborne virus. So I'm wondering if those measures are still in place, if we are lessening on the requirement for that, and if you've had any conversations with public health around perhaps doing away with some of these stricter measures and kind of returning things more to normal. The touch surfaces is, of course, an issue when you consider students' access to especially the younger kids, games, toys, interactive equipment, even into some of the interactive furniture, carpeting, beanbag chairs, that sort of thing. Is that still being restricted? And what does public health say about that? Just wondering. Thank you.
I'll just take that, Director Ennis. Through the chair to Trustee Oliver, I may or may not meet with public health every week. And we were talking about specifically some of those things this morning. So the guidance, as we know, there are measures that will be easing for the public. And I think it's important to recognize that some of the easing of restrictions are happening for voluntary activities. That was from public health this morning. That being said, we know that there will be updated guidance. Right now, cohorting is still mandated by the province. The Ministry of Education provides guidance for schools that we are to follow. Cohorting is was a hot topic today in terms of conversation and for some of the reasons that you've shared. So our Associate Medical Officer of Health meets regularly with her counterparts across the province, and they will provide further guidance. And that's something that we're discussing, that they're discussing, and are very much aware of perhaps that might be one of the measures. Indoor masking will not be a measure that will be removed. I think it's important to put that out there. And again, it's around the voluntary nature versus the mandatory nature of some of the protocols. The other question that you had around touch surfaces, our direction has changed on that this year. So previously, there were a lot of things that were not allowed to be shared that we are allowed to share this year. That guidance has been provided to our schools around, because we know that it's around the fomites and then not transmissible, as you provided earlier. So there's a couple of things that you also put in that conversation around, plush furniture and toys. It's like a spring cleaning in our schools. It's an opportunity to clean out some of those extra clutter pieces, and part of the clutter, we're not bringing everything back in for a couple of reasons. One, because some of the things probably aren't really great for the learning opportunities, but it also allows for physical distancing still in classrooms. So that hasn't changed yet either. And so that extra space is also important at this time. And that may change in the next set of guidelines that come out. And we anticipate that the next week or so. So I hope I answered your questions.
Just a follow up. So I'm just wondering, are there restrictions around students' access to like books and games, and that's permitted?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. There are no restrictions.
Perfect.
But again, all the other measures in place, right? Hand hygiene and
exactly.
And you know what, some of the things that are important for families to know is public health has not seen any uptake in influenza in the last 2 winters. And that's a credit to all the measures that everyone's using.
Great, thank you so much. Does anyone else have any questions for Superintendent Blackwell? Wonderful, thank you so much for your report. We're just going to take a 5-minute comfort break. So if it's 9 o'clock, perfect. So if we can come back at 9:05 to finish off the director's report and move on from there. So see you at 9:05. Trustees.
Thank you so much, Chair Shuttleworth. Just wanted to give you an update on the Director's Speakers Series. As you know, on February the 7th, we launched the Director's Speakers Series on anti-Semitism, the longest hatred. And we had Dr. Karen Mock, Bernie Farber, Rabbi Stephen Weiss, Sharon Binstock, Esther Retty, our grade 12 student from HDSB who was outstanding. And we had Jess Burke from the Center for Israel and Jewish Affairs. And so we had an excellent panel. I've received lots of favorable responses to the work. We know that anti-Semitism is alive and well, and it's a real issue that needs to be dealt with. Very rarely do we get an opportunity to do learning around that subject. We do know that oftentimes when we hear about it, it's because some hate images has appeared somewhere, and it's a very reactionary reporting kind of opportunity rather than a learning opportunity and an understanding, creating greater understanding. So we were very delighted with the response from community. And as a result of this, I know that we have forged a greater path forward in dealing with this issue. We have some other topics coming up at the end of the month. We are going to be dealing, of course, with Black excellence, being February, being Black History Month. We wanted to make sure we got that in February. And so we're going to have a wonderful panel lined up for that. I hope that you will be able to join us. I know that we have a lot of dates coming at folks, and you're not always able to join us. And so by next Tuesday, we hope to have all the bios and all of the excellent lineup that we have revealed. So it could be end of this week or Tuesday. So stay tuned for more on that. We are getting requests for more topics to be covered, but we have limited amount of time, between now and the end of the school year. But hopefully, this is something that we can continue to illuminate and to highlight various topics that the community would like us to deal with. So happy to take any questions on that or comments.
Thank you, Director Ennis. I see no comments on the floor, but I just wanted to echo the great response I've heard from people who were able to come and see or to watch your director's report on the long hatred, the anti-Semitism piece. All I have heard is how wonderful it was. It was just so great that we've had this opportunity for the board to inform and educate people out there. I think that's really, really important. So again, thank you so much. I look forward to the next series. I know a couple of people on the board. I've got a couple ties, which is really nice. So thank you so much for that. And we will move on to our next item, which is the PPM 81 update.
And just before Superintendent Ruddock comes on, I just wanted to say thanks to Dr. Joel Amoa, who's been working very closely with me on the Director's Series. And so I want to just thank her publicly for that support as well. And so for the PPM 81, Superintendent Ruddock, over to you.
Thank you. Through the chair to trustees. On January 27th, we received a memo from the ministry on a draft update to PPM 81 and inviting us to participate in a consultation process. So staff from Student Health, Human Resources, and Special Education met to analyze the impact of the proposed changes from our current practices to the proposed in the draft PPM, which are summarized in the slide deck that was circulated by Trustee L. Harrison last week. The principal of Student Health and a manager of professional services both participated in the virtual consultation process on February 7th with the Ministry of Education and presented for feedback from SEAC on February 8th. And staff and SEAC both submitted written feedback to the ministry by their deadline on February 11th. And I believe both those letters were circulated by Trustee L. Harrison as well. As you can see from our feedback submission, we've articulated a number of concerns with proposed changes, the potential impact on resources, and the compressed timeline within which we'd be expected to implement the PPM, which would be for this September. So I'm happy to take any questions on the pieces that were circulated to you.
Trustee Gabens.
Thank you through the chair. I did read over the letter and the impact, and it is profound. I'm kind of shocked by what the province is suggesting for our staff to undertake, and again, some of the language that's used by the memo, referring to a healthcare provider, not being specific on what kind of healthcare provider would be giving direction. I'm not sure what we can do, but I would I certainly support what SEAC has put forward, and I'm wondering if there's a way to let other boards know and get the word out that this has big impacts on our staff, and I'm presuming on all boards across the province and their staff.
Thank you. So we have a speakers list that's built now, so I'll just read out the order. I don't know, Superintendent Ruddock, did you want to respond to Chair Gabens before I move on?
No, I mean, I would echo your comments, and certainly the concerns that were raised in both our letters were similar to the same concerns that were raised by other participants in the consultation process, and we'd be happy to circulate the letter if you'd like to see that done.
All right, thank you. So we now have Trustee Oliver, followed by Trustee Gray, followed by Trustee Collard, and then Vice Chair Al Harrison. So Trustee Oliver, you're up first.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Yes, I absolutely support the letter that was put forward by SEAC, and I would be very supportive of our chair writing a letter to the minister on behalf of our Board of Trustees in along the same lines. It is unbelievable to me that the ministry would recommend that we actually remove trained healthcare professionals who currently come into our schools and provide support to our medically fragile students and students with various medical conditions, and instead of that, replace that with and put this incredible responsibility onto our educational assistants, who already have a great deal of work and responsibility. This is not something that I envision educational assistants as doing, and I think it does put everybody at risk, and especially our most vulnerable students. So it's kind of unbelievable that this is a plan in action. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Collard.
Yeah, thank you. When I first read this PPM, it shocked me, and I'm very pleased that our SEAC has been forward thinking and put this letter together. I'm wondering if our union partners have had anything to say to us about this PPM, particularly Hadia. I'd really like to know what their thoughts are on it and the burden that this is going to place upon our educational assistants. If we have any information about their response, I'd be curious to hear that.
We did share the draft PPM with the unions, and I see Superintendent Taha has popped on, and I'll turn it over to him to share any response.
Thank you, Superintendent Ruddock. Through you, Chair Shuttleworth, to Trustee Collard. We did communicate with all of our union partners that this revised PPM is coming. However, it's not in its final stage, and they were made aware of this PPM through their provincial partners. So once we have the finalized version, we will be sitting down with our HEDA partners and other partners to discuss implementation. But yes, there are, as outlined in our letter, a few hurdles from a collective agreement perspective that we have to overcome.
Thank you for that. And I would also be supportive of our chair writing a letter if someone had already drafted a motion.
Thank you. We now have Vice Chair Harrison, followed by Trustee Gray.
Thank you. And in collaboration with Trustee Garretts, who sits on SEAC at this moment, as I do, and the alternate reps who are Chair Shuttleworth and Trustee Oliver, there's a motion, a draft motion to be put forward, and would you like me to read it at this time?
Vice Chair Harrison, can you send it and I'll stick it up on the screen again?
Or it's in the Q&A doc, but I can sure do that.
Okay, I can find it. Yeah, hold on.
Okay. And it goes, be it resolved that the chair write a letter to the Minister of Education about PPM 81, provision of health support services in school settings, noting support for the letters written by SEAC and HDSB staff and expressing concern regarding the short timeline for stakeholder engagement and the short timelines and challenges regarding implementation. And in listening to SEAC, you've raised a number of concerns, both Superintendent Ruddock and trustees, and one of the association reps who also has a student who is receiving some of these services said, I will never be in support of what's being proposed here. And that really kind of stuck with me. And, while we've missed the consultation timeline, which was extremely abridged for something of such magnitude, I don't care. I think we should still send the letter to add our voice to those around the province that are raising this as a red flag.
Thank you, Vice Chair Harrison. Trustee Gray, followed by Trustee Garretts.
Yes, thank you very much. Through the chair, it's similar to Trustee Collard's question about other groups acknowledging this or responding to this. I wondered if, and I may have missed it this week, but has there been a response or a position put out by OPSPA? Has anyone seen anything? Usually we see sort of letters from our president or chair of OPSPA. I'm not aware of one coming out this week to address this.
Trustee Grabentz, I'm not sure if you might have the answer to that question.
I have not seen anything recently, but I will hunt through my email just in case it got by me.
Thank you. Trustee Garretts.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, to Director Ennis. I wonder what, as trustees, what the risk management piece is for us, whereby educators, if this goes through, we have educators that are trained to be educators. They are not medical professionals. They would be trained possibly by an outside medical profession, but that's just in my mind, just passing their knowledge, but it's not proper training. So what is the risk piece if potentially an EA makes an error and harms a student?
Thank you, Trustee Garretts. I would imagine that all the boards that are impacted by this would fall under the umbrella of the ministry that is rolling this out, and as such, I'm not sure about the specific liabilities to us, but I wonder if Superintendent Ruddock have had any conversation around that and have some further details to add.
Thank you, through the chair to Trustee Garretts. That's certainly one of the questions that we have, and something we would want to explore. We know that there's the Good Samaritans Act, but the Good Samaritans Act protects individuals and would protect our staff in the event that they're offering emergency services or an emergency intervention. Our staff would be asked to conduct routine medical procedures, not just emergency procedures. And so we would want to seek a legal opinion on whether the Good Samaritan Act would continue to cover our staff. And then secondly, we would want to work with our insurance provider, OSBI, to ensure that their coverage would expand to cover staff conducting these medical procedures. So that is certainly a question that we have that we would want explored moving forward.
Thank you. We now have Trustee Oliver, followed by Trustee Collard.
Thanks, through you, Chair. Just in response to the questions around OPSPA involvement, I see an email to members of the education program work team and the policy work teams that there will be a joint meeting later this month. It looks like perhaps the deadline for feedback has been extended, and so we will have an opportunity to provide some feedback through OPSPA. So I will be sharing that information with you after. Thank you.
Trustee Collard.
Yes, further to the question regarding insurance, while the insurance may cover the individual employee, I'm also concerned of being sued as the Halton District School Board as an entity, because I know that sometimes when lawsuits occur, it's the individuals as well as the corporate body that are sued, and so that would be an additional concern over top of just the liability for an individual employee.
I think, Trustee Collard, that would be quite a nice overlay to the response that Superintendent Ruddock gave earlier, and we would certainly be seeking out legal opinions and in terms of how we move forward.
Okay, I see no one else. Oh, there we go. Vice Chair Harrison, I was going to ask about the motion, but go ahead.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, as was I. And I was just wondering whether Trustee Oliver has any specifics around the extension of the timeline and whether Superintendent Ruddock has heard of that. No, she hasn't. Yeah. Okay, and I'll just say that we've covered a couple of the issues that are of concern, but the list is quite lengthy, and I'm not suggesting that we try to discuss them all. At the heart of this, we want to do the best for students, and in general, this does not appear to be accomplishing that, and it puts staff in a precarious position, not only the EA staff, but principals who would be somehow hosting private service providers within a school. It just seems to be ill considered at this point in time. So, I mean, I don't know that the impact of a letter will change things wholeheartedly, but again, perhaps adding our voice at this point in time, and you never know who's going to pick up on this letter or the other ones and kind of start to cause a domino effect. Because we have process issues here, the timelines are just unreasonable, and content issues here. So even if we just go at it from those perspectives at a high level, I think it would be worthwhile. So therefore, I would be willing to move that motion. I don't know if there's a seconder out there.
Trustee Garrett, would you like to second it?
Yes, I
Awesome.
would.
So I'm going
Thank
to put
you.
it back up. Oh, there it goes. All right, so I'll read the motion. Be it resolved that the chair write a letter to the Minister of Education about PPM 81, provision of health support services in school settings, noting support for the letters written by SEAC and HDSB staff, and expressing concern regarding the short timeline for stakeholder engagement and short timelines and challenges regarding implementation. So is there any further debate or discussion on this motion? All right. Seeing none, if everybody would like to go to their voting sheets and cast their votes, please. So are both student trustees still here? We have 12 votes, but one of the missing votes, I think, is one of our student trustees. So I don't know if she is still.
Sorry, point of order. I'm just checking my my texts, and student trustee Vinu Lakara has left the meeting.
Great. So that carries, well, not great that she's left, but great that I know why we only have 12 votes. So thank you so much. That carries unanimously. Thank you very much. And I will start to draft that letter sometime tomorrow. And as always, would appreciate everyone's support and advice moving forward with that. So thank you so much. All right. Director Ennis, we are now up to other.
Thank you so much. My only other comment this evening, I want to just say a big thank you to the superintendents and the senior team who continue to be responsive to our school leaders in supporting them. I want to say a big thank you to our school leaders or administrators or principal and vice principals for the incredible job that they have done to get us to this point. And I want to say a big thank you to our teachers, our assistants in our classroom, our technicians, our caretakers, our clerical, and everyone who touches our schools and our buildings to make sure that we continue to stay open for students. They have done an incredible job for which I am grateful. I know you are grateful, and for which we are all grateful. So I want them to know and publicly acknowledge the great work that they are doing. I know it's been a strain and I know it's been tough, but they have stepped up and they have showed up when we have asked them to, and even when we haven't asked, because this is what they believe in, this is their calling, and I can't thank them enough. So I just wanted to say this publicly, that from the bottom of my heart, I truly, truly think our staff who are serving our students each and every day deserve a lot of praise for what they're doing. So thank you. And that ends my report for today.
Thank you so much. And on behalf of all the trustees at this table, I know we echo your gratitude. We know how difficult this has been, and it is amazing to see, again, for me, you look at all of the kids walking home from school with big smiles on their face, so happy to be back and with their teachers. And that's all down to everyone who's made that happen. So it's no small feat. We recognize that. And again, from all of us as well, thank you so much to everyone. Okay, we're now up to 6.6, communication from the chair. And there is one letter we have received, which was from Avon Maitland District School Board regarding EQAO testing. It's attached to the agenda. And after that, we're up to 6.7 committee reports. There have been no reports electronically received. However, are there any reports coming forward tonight? Great. We're now on to 6.8, which is trustee questions and comments. Are there any questions or comments from the trustees? Great. Thank you so much, Trustee Gray.
Yes, thank you very much through the chair. I'd like to ask a question or at least receive an update as to the status of transportation in Halton. I am aware that there have been some bus cancellations, and I'm wondering if we could hear a little bit about how far spread this is and what the prognosis is. Are we trending up or trending into a worse situation? Thank you.
I would like to ask Superintendent Ngoy to give us an update.
Thank you. And for the chair, to Trustee Gray and all trustees, we are continuing to see driver shortages that are more significant as a result of the various isolation requirements that have now resulted in cancellations. It is hard to predict the area, so I would say it is across the region, depending on where we do not have the ability to cover the routes. So the first line of strategy, I'd say, the first strategy is to try to cover those routes with existing drivers, and therefore you'll see the delayed routes to some of the schools. And then beyond that, we have to make the difficult decision to actually cancel altogether some of them. We do have about 3 to 4 routes overall, which means multiple runs. So multiple schools will be impacted. And I'd say 10 to 12, 10 to 15 runs, individual runs may be impacted in a day. We try to limit it to about no more than 3 days per impacted run, so that the students don't miss an entire week. Where possible, even less than that. Sometimes it's difficult because we know the absence as a result of the isolation may be 5 days, maybe longer than that. And we do not have enough coverage or spare drivers to cover for all of these absences in the system. So it is a concern that will continue, and we're monitoring the best that we can. We continue to recruit drivers, to train drivers. So that effort is something that is ongoing for the year. And if the situation changes, we will keep you updated. For right now, we are more stable, but we do have some cancellations every week.
Thank you very much. Can I have a follow-up, please? I'm just wondering, and this is maybe getting too much into the minutiae of the whole thing, but if a particular run is canceled for a particular school area, and that seems to be long range, do they try to shift the canceled routes around the region so that one canceled route isn't continually affected?
Thank you for that. And yes, absolutely. That's why we try at most to be 3 days for that one particular run. And then we shift it around because the actual absence could be 5 to 10 days, maybe longer if there's, an illness. And therefore we try to move the drivers around so that not one, the same student on the same bus is impacted for the entire duration. So it will be different students on different stops and runs that will be impacted. We are also providing notice. If we have advance notice, we do provide notice. And we do mention in there that it is for 2 or 3 days at a time, so that the parents can make alternate plans for that period of time. So the actual notice that comes through will say, you know, for these 3 days, the bus is canceled, will run again on this date. And then at that point, they make plans for another run to be impacted and provide a spare driver to this one so that it doesn't impact more than 3 days.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We now have Trustee Daniele, followed by Trustee Amos, and then Trustee Reynolds.
Thank you very much. Through you, Madam Chair, I am wondering with the upcoming election, generally in February, because this is my fourth time through, we would receive information about the ward boundaries in each of our municipalities, given that the first day to be able to submit your name for nomination in the municipal election is May 1st. And we haven't even seen that for the first draft, much less having it come a second time. So I'm wondering, what is the I believe it's the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. What is the deadline that we have to have that submitted by, and when might we be receiving it, please?
Director Ennis?
I'm wondering if General Manager Thibault might be able to.
Superintendent Nagoy put her hand up.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, Superintendent Nagoy.
General Manager Thibault may have more details on that actual deadline, but we are bringing a report to board on March 2nd with the details and a few options for consideration. And I see General Manager Thibault is on screen, and perhaps he has the date for the deadline, but we are well within those timelines.
For trustee distribution? Yes, exactly. So we have till the end of March, so March 31st. So the plan is we'll first present some of the options at the next board meeting, March 2nd. We'll look at the different groupings that are possible, status quo, as well as other options we've reviewed in the past. And then we'll have another chance to look at it on the 23rd. And if need be, based on the conversations we have on March 2nd, we can certainly have something at committee of the whole to look at some options and spend more time to discuss it if there's anything you guys would like to take in a more open discourse. So happy to take any other follow-ups.
Thank you very much.
Oh, and just maybe to add, we just received the PEG report on Monday. So we're running numbers right now. So we'll be hoping to get you something sooner rather than later.
Thank you. Trustee Amos.
Thank you. I have 2 items. The first item is just a reminder that the Halton Learning Foundation is having their annual AGM next Thursday, the 24th, in the evening. I think it's 6:30, something like that. Anyways, it's always good to hear what's going on with Halton Learning Foundation and what they're doing for our students. So just wanted to remind everybody. So if you want to participate, there's a link you need to fill out. And they will send you the information. My second item is a question through you to the director. Recently, there have been some ads out for a graduation coach for Black students. And I understand that's a ministry-driven directive. I've seen some posts on social media regarding this job application, and some of them haven't been very nice. And I believe it's because of maybe a lack of understanding for some of the people about what this position is about and why it is being offered. And I just wondered if you could speak to that and maybe provide some information and education to the public about this position.
Thank you, Trustee Amos. Let me first say that I am in full support of the graduation coach for Black students in Halton. And we know that throughout the province, the ministry has seen data that has clearly suggested that Black students do not graduate at the same rate as other students. And so this was part of their initiative, but I know that Superintendent Etop has been very closely aligned with this. And through his work and his department, I'm going to turn it over to him.
Thanks very much, Director Ennis. You're absolutely correct.
Evidence shows clearly that Black students face systemic racism and barriers towards their achievement in education. There's been lots of studies about that, and therefore promoting equity and human rights is about ultimately is about creating change across the education system. To support systemic changes and help remove barriers within the classrooms and school communities for that matter. The province has been working with several school boards, as Director Ennis alluded to, including the Halton District School Board. The graduation coach model has shown to have a positive impact on student success and overall well-being, and is certainly designed to help affect system change so that Black students feel welcome, have a sense of belonging, and certainly a better overall school experience. Through providing culturally responsive support, the goal of the program is to improve well-being and academic achievement and help affect a systemic change on behalf of students who identify as Black. And so with that, I would move to your actual question, which is with respect to the post. So ads have gone out for these positions. We use various different sources to communicate those ads broadly. We've had a great deal of interest, which is incredibly positive. Unfortunately, one of those ads on Facebook, we did have individuals weighing in, and our communications department notified me immediately last night. We certainly took action immediately. You know, in my experience, social media is sometimes not the best place to try and educate others. And as such, we chose to just move forward and remove the ad, partially because it was also going to time out this afternoon anyways, as the position closes tomorrow afternoon. I think the racist response is shared online regarding this new position for our board is certainly incredibly disheartening, but also demonstrates the need to continue to educate, as you've said, Trustee Amos, our students, our staff, and our broader community about the disparities that exist, and our obligation as a school board to address these on behalf of our students. So I hope that helps address your question.
That's great. Thank you very much. I just wanted to get it out into the public realm about the need for this position and the importance of it, because we need to make sure all students succeed. And if this is going to make some students succeed, then it is a very important position. So, and we've heard from both you, Superintendent Etoff, and from Director Ennis, the importance of having this person. So thank you very much for your response.
Thank you. Trustee Reynolds.
Thank you. Through the chair to Director Ennis. I'm wondering if trustees will be hearing about an update on iSTEM applications and acceptances, as well as International Baccalaureate. In previous years, we sometimes a report came to our board just giving us an update on how these programs are, you know, how many people signed up for them, how many got accepted, what it's going to look like for the year ahead. I know that is, I've heard from some people in the community that they were looking forward to hearing about what it's going to look like next year.
Thank you, Trustee Reynolds. I've been having conversations with senior leadership and our associate director both, and we are preparing to bring something to board. So hopefully by next meeting, we'll be ready to go.
Thank you so much. I see no other questions coming forward. We will now, I'll give a couple seconds, we will now turn our attention to public questions. So on the HDSB website, there's a button on the live stream page, as there's a link at the bottom of tonight's agenda, which allows members of the public to ask questions of the board. Questions received may be answered during this meeting, particularly those related to the agenda items, or at the following meeting at the discretion of the chair. For efficiency, multiple questions received that are similar in nature may be grouped together, again, at the discretion of the chair or vice chair. Questions will not be attributed. When necessary, a notation will be made that multiple people ask the same question. Any questions that contain language that is hateful or discriminatory will not be considered. Vice Chair Al-Harrison, do we have any questions that have been submitted this evening?
Yes, through you, Madam Chair, we do have a number of them. Some of them were already addressed in the director's report. So I won't be going back to those ones again, just because it's repeated, and it does appear that one of the persons is watching, which is great. Hello and welcome. But I will just jump in here. Is there going to be another opportunity for students to make switches to their learning models?
So Director Ennis, do you know who to best direct that question to?
Thank you. Through you, Chair, I'm going to ask Superintendent Blackwell to speak to this.
Thank you. Through the chair to the person that posed the question and Trustee Al-Harrison. So I think that conversation we did share with families when students returned from the winter break, the opportunity to look to virtual, that they would have the opportunity where requests came in where they were concerned to see what the lay of the land would be with cases in our schools. So those principals had conversations with families as those requests came to them, and have worked with families to either look at an asynchronous short-term option or virtual in elementary, should that have been a request. So the best thing would be to reach out to your school at this time if it's an elementary school. Of secondary, there was a formal process. There was also a formal process for elementary in the late fall. And secondary, that process has now been completed for second semester, which is well underway. So again, those conversations, reaching out to your home school are the best way to address any questions or concerns with the learning model that you're choosing. But there will be no more formal learning model switches. And as you can imagine, that's a whole system reorganization we've looked at many times, and our students are working with their teachers and moving students at this time of year. Doing a large organizational change is not in the best interest of our students at this time. So we've had quite a few students actually return from virtual to in-person learning, which is a great thing. So connect with your home school if you have any questions.
And if I may just add quickly through the chair that, when I visit schools, I always ask the question about students learning in person. And I understand that virtual might be the option for some parents and students, but overwhelmingly, 99.9% of students are happy to be back in person learning. They feel it's how they learn best. How they socialize. It meets their social emotional needs, and it's something that we want to encourage.
Thank you, Director Ennis and Superintendent Blackwell. Vice Chair Harrison, are there further questions?
Yes, there are a number of them.
Oh, okay.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. The next one, I believe I can probably answer. It's related to the Reimagine Forward and just who would be required to participate. And I believe the response to that is that it's a completely optional activity that people can join in if it's something of interest. And we hope it is, that they have observed some positive things and they would want to elevate those through this type of process. So it's definitely not mandatory of anybody, but everybody is in fact welcome. The next question is with respect to the collection of, it ties back to the one that I was just talking about, and the person was commenting that we're doing a few different surveys and community engagements. And the question is there any surveys or engagements envisioned related to how students have experienced the pandemic in their learning and any negative, perhaps, impacts? So do we plan an additional survey mechanism, or what has been done in this regard?
Director Ennis.
Certainly, we have a number of survey results that are coming out, and we are working on that right now. So those should be coming to us fairly shortly, both student and staff surveys. And so we're working through that in terms of disseminating that to the public. And I know we're also thinking about and planning our Have Your Say survey. And so that will also be another opportunity for us to ask some of these questions.
Great, thank you. Vice Chair Harrison.
Okay, yes, through you, Madam Chair. The questioner is asking about school-based vaccination clinics and tracking of negative vaccine reactions. And my understanding is that in Halton, we're not hosting any school-based vaccination clinics. And that's something that Superintendent Blackwell shared with us at the time when the province was sort of speaking about that. So this board is not hosting school-based clinics. Those are being held through public health. Please correct me or add to. Yeah.
I think Superintendent Blackwell might want to bring some clarity there. Go ahead, Superintendent Blackwell.
Thank you. Through the chair to Vice Chair Al Harrison. Yeah, at this time, as I mentioned earlier, our vaccination rates are very high and are continuing to rise. We have, through public health, as requested by the Ministry of Education, sent a survey to our families to see where and if there would be interest in having school-based vaccination clinics. At this time, that we have not received the results from the final results from public health, who have surveyed our coterminous board as well. And at the initial survey data that came in, I think there were about 4,000 responses in the first week. Did not indicate that there were barriers to access to vaccines for families, and that families would rather access either the clinics that were available, the walk-in opportunities, or their home healthcare provider or their healthcare providers. So, long story short is if that were ever to be pursued, we would obviously communicate, and it would require parent consent. But it's not looking like the success rates in our area are not leading to us hosting those during school hours at this time.
Thank you. Vice Chair Al Harrison.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, that there is a fine example of letting staff answer the questions that are within their purview and expertise. Thank you so much. And lastly, there was just a comment around the PPM 81 discussion and appreciation for undertaking the letter and working in the best interest of students. So with that, I believe that I have, while not reading them verbatim, I believe I've captured the essence and spirit and hopefully in an efficient way. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair Al Harrison. So for the public, don't forget, there are several ways to be heard by the Board of Trustees. There is this question and answer portion of the meetings. You may also choose to delegate the board, but optimally, the best way to reach out to us is to reach out directly to your local trustee. Our contact details are available on the HDSB website. And with that, just before we go, I want to just again say another big thank you. I was just noticing during this meeting that we have how quickly staff are able to answer our questions. I just think that it's amazing to see the hard work that goes into even just being able to answer our questions without having to refer back to anything. So to me, it amazes me. It really does amaze me. So I just want to thank everyone here, particularly senior staff. And I know that you don't do it alone. I know there's a lot of working parts behind you. So thank you to all those working parts, no matter how big or how small. And with that, we have nothing further on the agenda. So I call this meeting adjourned. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a great rest of your evening.